All right, so I sent this out last week, posted it everywhere in all the places, and I know for a fact many of you have already clicked all of the buttons. So thank you for that. But for those of you that have not, the GDAP update, right? Microsoft 365 is deprecating their DAP and are mandating GDAP. DAP will completely go away by around July 1st. They haven't confirmed that date, but if you are still on DAP in Lifecycle Insights, you will have to go click some buttons. So I just put in the chat the article for the buttons that you will need to click. This is true for any of your services that use the Microsoft API. So I was going to say if you're a PAX 8 member, and then I look down and Brian's on the screen with his PAX 8 hat on. So if you're Brian or anyone else on the call who is PAX 8 that uses this, you would need to go, they will have their version of it, but some comparable process. Same thing, we know Line Guards is fairly familiar. And Jeff, who's on our support team, has certainly answered quite a few questions this week about that. If you have more questions about it, Jeff just joined the call, so feel free to throw in the chat if you've struggled with anything, and he will aim to get you squared away. Last week on the call, I had everyone fill out a form for product enhancement requests. We talked through the items that I had on the form and then asked you to submit your own. So I wanted to share today what everybody's votes were. So it was interesting. After we left the call, right, I sent the form out on Monday. I also joined a call with a group on Tuesday, and the proportion of the responses stayed along the same. So it didn't sway the voting much in terms of proportionality. But the big winners were the desire to have an agenda builder, to really build in some workflow enhancements, and to start adding backup integrations. It's interesting, as we look through the support cases that ask for integrations, backup is definitely the one that folks want to also report out on. That's something that folks feel like they still, that's missing. So that those are the top three. You can see the others on the screen. Got something else on your mind? So here, I'll just scroll through. You can take a look. We had a lot of pieces for enhancements to reporting, which is something we definitely want to work on. Alex, I know you're on the call, and you had said recommendation pathing simulation, and somebody else put in the same thing last year. So the roadmap, or last week, roadmap cards with contingency we'll look at. Someone wants 3 integrations. Actually, I think they want integrations, dot. So lots of integrations were listed in there. And then some other pieces. Again, we collect them all. I did not get our product team to approve the beer distribution in the app, but we will see. We'll see if they come up with anything crazy along the way. And then in the favorite features, it was strongly assessments and budgets, a lot of budget, report builder, a lot of assessments, etc. So yeah, good to see all of that along the way. So thank you for that. We will we'll keep that in mind, working on the roadmap now, prioritizing everything. And again, once we have it published, we will put it in the knowledge base, as we always do. So today, so any questions, comments, complaints, or criticisms about either of those two pieces, things about GDAP that you wanted, or did anybody not get that the form and they would like to fill it out? That is true, Jeff. All right. Well, so I wanted to chat on a topic that I think might be a strategy for folks to use in terms of sales and marketing. So first, mini story. Today is my daughter's 22nd birthday. She's in Prague for work, and this shirt is older than she is. And I know this for a fact because when she was 3, I wore this shirt. I was asked to come interview for the director of her preschool as I was a stay-at-home mom. And I wore this blouse and a silk skirt. And afterwards, I got back to my neighbor's pool where Josie was swimming. My neighbor was watching her. And I sat down and I took off my watch and my shoes just in case. And I was there about 5 minutes and I looked in the water and Josie had slipped off her kickboard and was holding onto the kickboard with one hand, and she couldn't pull herself all the way out of the water. So she's just got her eyeballs above the level of the water looking. And if she'd let go, she was only that far from the bottom, she could have bounced up, and she couldn't pull herself up. So I said, "I'm coming, little miss." And I jumped in the pool and pulled her out. And she said, "I heard you, Mama. You said, 'I'm coming, little miss.'" So this shirt went swimming years ago. Feels like a good day to celebrate it on her birthday, but that's not why I bring it up. I bring it up because what is the one thing that the business owners that you're meeting with in QBRs care about more than their business, which is their baby? And that is their babies, right? Their children. So I'm reading a book called Blue Ocean, and Blue Ocean talks about how to extend the market that you're selling to by looking at a different way to approach the end user. One of the things that I think Apple Computers does well is they try to market and appeal to youngsters, because if you can get somebody to use a Mac all the way through the end of their high school and college career, then what do they want to use? A Mac beyond that, right? So, and parents are always, so it made me start thinking like, okay, so if we want to get to an end user, and for an MSP, right, your clients, end users that they're trying to protect, their own children are certainly high on the list. We know for a fact it's very easy to just hand your business phone to your child to occupy them in the grocery store. If you've ever tried to go grocery shopping with multiple children, you wish you had phones for everybody, right? It's kind of a hassle, but there's certainly pieces that you don't want to give them and you want to protect them along the way. As a matter of fact, one more Josie story, when she was in 4th grade, she really wanted an email. I believe it had something to do with Club Penguin. And I made her write a paper on why she needed an email. She made a pretty convincing argument. We decided we would give her an email. And I said, "Okay, little miss, you're a cute little girl. Like, you can't go make your email. Hi, I'm Josie." And so her email at the time was itsnotjosie@gmail.com. So you can see what I work with at my house, right? But it made me start thinking about at what is the right age to start talking to children about their cybersecurity. We talk about it at our house all the time. What's the right age for them to have an email? How do you teach them cybersecurity, anti-ransomware, et cetera? And so I was talking to Wes Spencer and Juan Fernandez, and they sent me to this site, which I'll put in the chat. And it is actually, I'll show my screen again for just a quick second. So this is U.S. Department of Justice site, which has tips for, helping kids stay safe online. And as summer starts, an important conversation to have. Kirk, I actually thought about you because I've sat on your webinar before where you've talked with banks and insurance people about right? You did a webinar for folks to talk about stop, drop, and roll, right? What happens when you have a ransomware attack, et cetera. But my thinking was, if you could be the MSP that got to talk to business owners about how to protect their children, what would that business owner think about what would they think about your business? If you went to a school and said, "Hey, do you have an after-school club for cybersecurity or computer programming?" They all do. We'd be happy to, do a presentation around safe, internet activities, et cetera. That school system, right, gets to know you as somebody who's working to protect the children of that school. And then when they think about who do we trust with our IT, it would be your business. So I had a few ideas around it and was just hoping we could kind of brainstorm some. When I mentioned this to Wes Spencer, he said he just presented at his church a couple weeks ago on best practices for how to protect your kids. He said 3 years old is when you start having some conversations, but again, you can't sit a 3-year-old down and run them through a phishing simulation, right? Like there are things you can talk about and things you can't talk about. And so really to have a program to talk through it, I think would be powerful. if I haven't met any of you live, or if you haven't heard me talk before, I was a high school math teacher. I was an assistant principal at a high school and accountability coordinator for the school system. So I was in charge of all of the data. So I know quite a bit about how to work with schools, and had, Elmo loves cybersecurity. Right. You got to talk to him early. So some ideas I had were chat with the PTO. Right now, what school systems are doing, they're planning for their fall professional development and back to school programs. So every high school has a high school orientation night where parents and children come, right? And at the school system I worked for had the first one-to-one laptop initiative in the state of Maryland. So of course, if a managed service provider had come in and talked to the freshman class about, there were 400 students and guardians there to have a conversation around security. Think about all of those parents could be business owners that you could appeal to. There are after school clubs, there are college fairs, again, back to school nights, etc. There are lots of ways to, get in with school systems, not necessarily to sell to the school system, but to help have conversations to protect the children who are associated with grownups, right, who might be business owners. So would love to hear thoughts if folks like that. Yeah, keep it short, relatable, and not FUD for sure, Tim. But there are definitely best practices, right? We always talked with our kids around. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir on this one, like what information not to put on things. The kids don't put their birth dates on there. Josie was a smart aleck, but otherwise we talked about what makes for a good email name, etc. One fish, two fish, red fish, you got fish. This is my favorite kids book. I didn't even know that was one, Mark. That's fantastic. Absolutely talking to him about TikTok and privacy issues. Tim, you mentioned many local PD fire departments have programs, and you partnered with the police department and did a parent session. Yeah, I think any place like that where you could give a parent session. And actually what brought it to mind is, I don't know if Peter joined the call. I don't think he did, but Peter, one of our new colleagues at ScalePad, had my book with the characters on it sitting on his desk. And he said his 3-year-old was very disappointed it wasn't a coloring book. And I thought, well, maybe it should be a coloring book, and should put some tips for kids that they could color in, and then, not make hi mom or password your password type of thing. So it's allowed to, William, I'm curious what's allowed to lie when answering security questions. Is that in the book, or is that Elmo with the cybersecurity? Oh, so thoughts, comments, questions. I mean, you could do webinars on this, right? You could certainly go speak. You could send out flyers. You could create coloring books. Oh, don't disclose real details. Oh, yes, absolutely. In terms of the security questions, I'm with you, William. Thank you. Any thoughts on that, other than quite a few thoughts in the chat on what to do with that? Has anybody done other things they want to share, or does that drum up any new ideas? Tim's postcards to households. Nice.
I have a contact with we're in the Twin Cities, and one of our good friends is a program director with Big Brothers Big Sisters. And so talking about that group, we're still in talks, but that's another avenue.
No, that's a great idea. The Boy Scouts have, a range of badges for sure. And you can be a certified person to train on different badges. So I'm confident I know my son did several of the computer badges. So you could partner with Boy Scouts, like you said, mentoring programs. Big Brother, Big Sister is a great one. New Hampshire has a cybercrime division that does sessions quarterly. Badges. We do need those stinking badges. All right. Well, So those were my thoughts for the day. I just thought if you were looking for some ideas for other way, everybody's always saying, what are other ways to get people to the table in QBRs? So to say, if you are struggling to have, I know we've talked about on this call, folks that are having a hard time getting somebody to a business review. If you started with, hey, as summer is coming, and we've been talking to many of our partners about, we could do a parent night for your your employees, or you could have one at your MSP and host like we're going to do a community event where we talk to parents about how to protect their children cybersecurity wise, maybe a way to go. Thank you, Tim, for comments. Anything we can do for you today? Any best practices, anything in the platform that's going on? Any questions for anybody? And I did plan to keep it short today since it was the head start to a long weekend, but happy to go into anything. Oh yeah, Chambers events are good for Parents' Night as well. Any life cycle questions I can answer for you? Give it the awkward 9 count. Tim's going to go back and mulch now, just in time. Looking to talk to VC funding people on security for their companies they invest in. Oh, so, Kirk, I'm curious, are you thinking in terms of like providing them with due diligence questionnaires, like vendor due diligence to speak to them? What is your thought on that?
Kind of along the lines of, I did a webinar a couple of years ago, was with a commercial banker, and how more banks and VC people are looking at how secure a company is before they want to loan money or give money out, because if a company is not secure and gets ransomware a week later, then they're probably not going to get their investment back. So it's kind of, I want to start, I'm starting to target more banks, bankers and VC funding, because one, you probably get in front of more startups who can then possibly use your, kind of this tool and other tools to help them along the way. So it's something I'm probably going to pursue this quarter, is more of them, and can even use the life cycle printout. Hey, here's some basics to make sure, present it to a company, make sure that they've got these basics, and then if you need to have us talk to them, kind of like what we do with cyber insurance brokers, is we can talk to potential clients that may be failing. That way you get them under your umbrella, and we might have a new client. So kind of the similar function there.
What's the pairing with people who have the same, target market, right? So
right.
I think that's a solid strategy. Yeah, I like that a lot. Anybody else have ideas like that? And Kirk, you've done, I know, like I said, you did that webinar with bank, and was it bank and insurance that you did it with?
Yeah, was with a insurance broker and a commercial banker. I'll find the link here. Just
Michael, I am reading your question in the chat while Kirk pulls that up. Jeff, can you screenshot that, and then we can take a look and see if there is an issue we need to deal with. What is MRR?
Got it.
Thank you. Anybody else do presentations? I know, Tim, you put chamber events in there. Credit unions would be similar to what Kirk is kind of speaking to. Any other groups like that? Ben, you're doing weekly webinars or presentations?
Yeah, we're doing weekly webinars right now, every Thursday, 30 minutes, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, free streaming and live. And they've been okay. We've been targeting CPAs and financial firms and stuff. So
again, that is like, you have the common, they could be partners, but they also, their clients could be partners. So it's a one-to-many kind of situation. So typically they say when you start doing those types of things, that it may not start out with a ton of live audience, but it starts to refeed. I don't know if you're seeing that yet, but that's what I've heard.
Yeah, that's been our thing. So we typically, we're doing Zoom Enterprise, so you don't see like who's on and who's not on.
Yep,
So,
yep,
'cause sometimes there's like nobody on, but we do them anyway
yeah,
because we're
yeah,
streaming them. But we'll come back on our stuff and maybe we have 3 people on, but we send it out. We might have like 30 people sign up
yep.
and 2 or 3 people will show up, but then they get a link to it and stuff like that. We'll come back a week later and they'll be like, 95 views here, 117 views over there. So we're obviously, you know, reaching out, people are looking at it. So it's
Absolutely.
working okay. Yeah.
Well, and one thing to do just as a side note, because at the beginning, we sometimes would do webinars, like same thing with you, a couple people on or whatever,
Yeah.
always have some pre-canned questions to ask yourself.
Right.
Say like, oh, coming in from the chat, right? So then
Yeah, that's what we do. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what we do. We're like, hey, I don't have 10 people or 5,000 records. Does this stuff pertain to me? Well, of course it does. And so, yeah, we've got a
perfect.
few
Yeah.
pre-canned questions, for Q&A. Yeah.
Yeah. It keeps you from just staring at your own camera, wondering
Yeah.
if anybody said,
Right,
am I
right.
just talking to the wall?
Yeah, it's pretty good. He does a pretty good job at it. I don't do it personally. My ops guy does them, but yeah, he does a pretty good job.
I definitely see more and more folks, I follow men or connected with many folks, many of you on LinkedIn or on Facebook. So I see a lot of these types of things pop up, which is
Yeah.
what it all came to mind as I was shipping my child off to Prague for her 22nd
Yeah.
birthday and keeping her safe. I was like,
Oh boy.
yeah, lunch and learns have always worked, right? Invite them in for a meal. And Kirk posted the links to so he's done one with HR and IT working together. So HR firms, oh, that is a good one too. Can be talked to. And then the first link that he posted in chat is the one with the commercial banker and insurance that I remember listening to. Tim put in there that you host twice a month networking session to the networks, kind of like a BNI type of group. Absolutely. And Team Tim every Friday at 2 for education sessions. Very
Yeah,
nice.
we're looking at that too. I'm waiting for marketing. I'm supposed to do the tech. We're gonna do like weekly tech tips. They're gonna be like 15, like 15-minute things. And we're just waiting for the 52. The marketing is just working on the 52 topics. And it'll just kind of be off the cuff, not Q&A. We're just really doing it just to get, content and, then they'll take the clips and rebrand them and stuff. But we're going to start doing that, I think, in a couple of weeks. We got that from Nashville, right? How to, teach somebody how to read an email. I mean, that's probably a good thing. If this is what you look for in an email. I mean, you can spend 10 minutes on that and it's probably a lot of people would probably get a lot of knowledge from it, your average person.
One, I think sample phishing, like all of the cybersecurity phishing training, like one bite at a time, what's indicative of it was interesting. So it's always on my brain, right? This morning I got a text from my sister with a link to something referencing a story I knew nothing about. And so I texted her a question about last night when I saw her at her son's baseball game, because I wanted to make sure it was her. And she's, oh, did I forget to tell you the story about my car getting hit? Yes, you did. So the link to a video about your car getting hit, I was like, I'm not clicking on that link until I confirm that it's you.
Right.
But little bits of how to be paranoid the right way, I think, is not a bad strategy, really.
No.
She thought I was a little bit nuts. She's like, I saw you 18 hours ago and you're asking me about that very thing. Yeah, I am. I just need to make sure it's you.
Yeah.
All right. High Rise Networks is a more corporate BNI type of networking group. Okay. And you do weekly tech tidbits of things under a minute tech wise on various topics.
Yeah, that's good too.
Yeah. I remember that when we first started Lifecycle Insights, it was 2020 was a leap year. So we decided there was an extra day in February. So we were going to do 29. We did, I think, like 29 seconds for 29 days or something in February. So Alex had, our first 29 seconds. If you go back on YouTube quite a ways, you can see what he had to say for 29 seconds and 29 days. 4 local Facebook groups with over 10,000 members that they push video education stuff to. Senior citizen programs groups can generate leads like back to school. You know what, Jeff, that's exactly right. That's what, when I was on the call on Tuesday, they said the same types of ways you could design programs for school, school age students. You can also design for assisted living places or senior centers, senior citizen programs, et cetera. absolute need for that, for sure. All right. Well, I like all the ideas. Hopefully that helps somebody, that may gave him some ideas on how to maybe go find some new leads, or speak to, something you could talk to at a business review that really shows you're trying to build a relationship with them and help them beyond just their business. You're protecting, like I said, their babies. That leads to positive trust for sure. All right. Anything else we can do for you today other than send you off on what's hopefully a long, lovely weekend? All right. So I know many of you really do work on Monday, but I hope that all of your partners are not working, so you have very peaceful days. How's that? All right. Have good weekends.